Did you ever hear the tragedy of Starvin Garvin the Unwise? No? It's not a story the pros will tell you.
Lessons that cannot be unlearned.
Welcome to the Judge of Obelisk. So this is a Crusader 5 Visage game, Visage mid, and we're following along Garvin, who's bought the recommended starting items. These are the items that I recommend in my big Visage guide. Reason for these starting items is just that it gives you a lot of very efficient stats, and you're going to use that crown anyway for your Handle Dominator, which is going to be your first major item. So perfect starting items. And then of course with your rune gold you're going to get yourself a self, which is going to fly out right now. So far everything going well. Also good last hitting so far. Getting one hit and one deny so far, which is pretty good. But of course in general it's much harder to last hit with Visage. You have similar damage to Sniper, actually even slightly more, but Sniper's attack animation is so much better, which is going to make things difficult. So last hitting so far going reasonably well, but the trading has not gone too well. So in a position like this you need to be a bit farther back. It's just taking a couple of extra hits here. And now with the shrapnel coming in, you're going to try to stay aside the shrapnel for as much as possible, but level 1 shrapnel doesn't do that much damage, but still a bit too long here inside the shrapnel and taking some unnecessary damage. And so now just want to drag those creeps back so that the sniper can't deny them, and very smartly and not trying to go for the last hit on that range creep here. As long as the creeps don't get denied, you're reasonably happy as Visage. And you're never going to win in this sort of fight where the range creep is only being hit by the tower, because it's always going to require 2 hits from a hero at this stage of the game plus 2 hits from the tower. And with a much better attack animation, Sniper is going to have the advantage here, so that's a good deny. Even if Sniper realizes that in time and tries to go for the last hit, he's still going to have the miss chance uphill, so very smart to go for that deny. So far everything is going quite well. So now Creep's in a perfect position, so Sniper of course is going to use his shrapnel, try to improve his chances of getting those last hits. And as Visage, you don't want to come up here to try to trade or anything like that. Just stand outside the shrapnel and try to get those last hits and possibly denies. It gets a nice range deny there, that's very nice. And this is not a trade you can do. He has 2 creeps here, the Sniper does. You have no creeps. You can't trade with him here. So that completely wasted Grave Chill and not really doing any damage to Sniper. You need to be a bit smarter about when you use those Grave Chills. You want to use those Grave Chills ideally when your wave is pushing, and he's going to have to run back anyway, then he can't really stay and trade, and then you can get a lot of damage with that Grave Chill. So tries for the hit, doesn't get it. You should be prepping this other creep here, but it's a bit too late on that, so it doesn't get any last hits here. Now this is an excellent Grave Chill here. Now we can do some good trading. Unfortunately only gets in 2 hits, but in principle that was a good attempt here. So now the wave is in a bad position and you can't position yourself like this. He tries to go for some sort of trading here, but it's just not working out. Yes, with the Solar Assumption he did a good amount of damage on the Sniper, but he's also using so much mana for that. Here's another good use of our Grave Chill, especially with the Arcane Rune up here. He drives away the Sniper and now he can get those last hits and denies, at least in theory. In practice it doesn't work out too well, but at least the idea behind this Grave Chill was really good. And once again driving away the Sniper, and now he gets at least 1 last hit here. Of course it's difficult. Also not a deny here, so quite nicely done. But of course in general he's falling behind, and this is not a good Grave Chill. Sniper's in a very safe position, you can't go up there. Just don't try to play aggressive onto his high ground, just stick onto your high ground, and in general you want to avoid this position where the wave is just sort of in the middle neutral position where Sniper is going to excel. You want it to either be on your high ground, or you want the wave to be pushing in or pushing into you. Either of those are fine, but just in this neutral position or on the enemy high ground statically, that's bad for you as Visage. But on the whole, this lane is not gone terrible. but also not great. There's just not a lot of farm here, but at least in terms of levels, he's only half a level behind, which is okay. But in terms of farm, he is very, very far behind. He's less than half the net worth, actually slightly more than half, but in either case, he's definitely earned the moniker of Starving Garvin in this lane here. He is so far behind. He has no items except for that crown and the iron branch. So he in fact has less items than what he started with. And now he's getting some items from the courier, but that's very, very late. It's 6 minutes in and he's just getting his first item. And he's buying this headdress, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you look at headdress, what does the item actually give you compared to just the Ring of Region? Ring of Region is 1.75 HP region, headdress is 2. So you're paying 200 gold for 0.25 HP region. This is not a good deal. The only reason you buy headdress, aside from upgrading, is just to get the aura. And the aura, of course, is great if you're in a dual lane or tri lane, but in a solo lane, headdress is not a thing. Just go for the Ring of Region, and then in terms of Dominator, so you start with the crown, you get the Ring of Region, then you get the broadsword, and then you get the headdress recipe and the Hand of Dominator recipe. That's the much more sensible order in a 1 versus 1 lane. So in either case, he now has those birds up, and so he can do some aggressive stuff onto Sniper, but just because he's Starving Garvin, because he's so far behind, you're not really going to be able to kill the Sniper when he's in a safe position like this. If Sniper pushes onto the high ground here, then you can try to kill him. But if he's up here, just no way of killing him, and you in fact have to be careful not to kill yourself. So they go into Garvin here, but he can just fight back, and that Rubik is in fact in grave danger. And with that, Maledict he might take down, but you're going to have to see. No, not going to pop here, but of course there's still a good exchange here with Garvin's team just doing more damage. Of course, a problem is going to be the mana, and as Visage, you're almost also going to buy mangoes in the lane. In the mid lane, you're not as mana hungry as the side lane Visage, who relies more on stone assumption. But as mid lane Visage, still you're going to need quite a bit of mana, and you can just buy, like instead of this headdress, just buy a Ring of Region and 3 mangoes. That gives you much more HP region, almost twice as much HP region, and you still have the option of eating those mangoes for mana, allowing you to maybe get some kills in the lane, or at least farm better with your Grave Chill. But even so, this lane is not gone too terribly badly here. He's like 1k behind in terms of net worth. So what you want to do now is just stay here, like push out this wave, farm this camp, maybe even farm this camp. But instead, he's going to rotate to the top. He finds a haste rune, and he's going to try to get this kill here, but this is just not worth it. So they get the kill on Clockwork, and the kill goes to Morphling, but it's just not a very high impact kill. And this rotation just takes forever, because you don't have boots. It takes you so long to actually get back to this lane, and you just lose so much gold and experience doing this. Like, you didn't get the kill, so you get like some AoE gold, which is like maybe 40 gold or something like that, which is just like 1 creep here. It's like 1 melee creep gives about as much gold as he got from that assist, and you lost a whole bunch of creeps here because of that rotation. So rotating this early when you don't have Dominator yet is almost always a mistake. So Dominator is now online, and now of course you want to go look for a creep, and he knows that there's some statues here which are not very good creeps, so you want to look for better creeps, but instead it's going to go and take the Static Banisher. Now the Banisher is situationally a good creep because of the purge ability. You can purge buffs and debuffs, but there's nothing like too important to purge here. Like, I guess you can purge like the Frost Shield from Lich, but it's just not a very high impact creep here. And the problem also is just it has no right click damage. It's 8th damage. And at this stage of the game, you're not really looking to fight, especially if the lane hasn't gone this well. So you're actually just looking to farm, and you want creeps that actually do right-click damage, or that have abilities that allow you to push out a wave, like the Hellbear Smasher. So again, he rotates to the top lane, which again is not the greatest move here. I guess he's trying to save the Morphling, but Morphling is fine. And yeah, they can go into this Lich and maybe get a kill. Not really using the Purge enough. So they're going to try to get the kill on Clockwork. And it looks like they might get that kill. But it's a very hard fought battle, and Morphling again claims that kill, which I guess it's fine. But you're just losing so much experience and so much gold, and no one is in mid to pick up that experience. Like, if a support is there right away to start with the experience, for example this Disruptor who really needs level 6, that would be fine, then you can rotate, but it's like more a thing that you do to get your support experience, and not something that you do for your own game plan. As is, you just lost so much experience, and you don't really want to be in this lane right now. This is not a very important tower to push, and it's much more important to put pressure onto that mid tower, and there's much safer farm to be had there. So finally now our boy Garvin going back into the mid lane, but Witch Doctor gets initiated on. You can of course fly into those cogs, so the birds help out a little bit here, but Lich gets off an excellent ultimate, and you need to drop those birds right away. If you drop those birds right away, he would have saved both the birds and also taken less damage himself, and maybe he might have made it out of there. But as is, they just trade 3 for 1, and our sniper's having a really excellent game. So Garvin was doing just fine in the mid lane, but he gets Wanderlust and just wants to, for some reason, travel away from this lane that's pushing in, just giving up the tier 1 tower. I really don't know why, but just in general, in terms of your game plan, unless there's a compelling reason to do otherwise, you just want to stay in the mid lane until you've pushed the enemy tier 1 tower down, or you're like level 12 and then you really want to rotate and play with your team more. But as is, he really wants that soul XP in the mid lane, not to get into these random fights here in the enemy jungle. Like, this is not an objective here. It's 50 minutes, there's no reason to take this outpost right now. But for some reason they're taking these weird fights with Morphling, who's not participating, which is quite sensible. Morphling doing the right thing here, but this is just like not a fight that is necessary, or that is really going to go too well. I mean, it's an even exchange, I suppose. This Venomancer is doing really well in this game, and for some reason going for Kaya and Yasha, which is really weird, but okay. So as Visage, as I said, you just want to get that level 12. It's so important to get those level 2 familiars. They're so much better than level 1 familiars. And yeah, I just need that level 12, and now hopefully he's just sitting in this lane, he's going to get that level 12 before he needs to resummon here. And so far it's looking really good. So he's using this Evolving Ripper, which is a reasonable creep, has pretty good DPS. It its right click, and has this toughness aura, which is not a hugely valuable aura, but it's nice to have. 3 armor is decent, but of course there's much stronger creeps. Pretty much like the top 3 creeps to get this Visage are the Hellbear Smasher, the Alpha Wolf, and the Centaur Conqueror. These are the 3 creeps you want to look for. But then the Evolving Ripper is like in the second tier of creeps, like the tier below that, that's still pretty good. Right now our boy Garvin isn't quite as stubborn anymore, and he's level 12 now. He's level 2 familiars now, so now is the point in time where he's really strong, and this Venomancer also is quite farmed. So they're going to push down this tier 2 tower. So our boy Marvin has picked up a Mud Golem, which is one of the weaker dominating creeps, but he's going to use it here on the sniper, and he's not used his Grave Chill yet, which is unfortunate, so definitely use that Grave Chill right away. Just increase your DPS by a lot. One thing that's a bit baffling is this Phase Boots. I don't know why you would go for Phase Boots, just you you're not looking to do right-click damage on Visage with your main hero. The armor is okay, I guess, but it's not the most important, and the extra movement speed is just not that much. So much better boots to go for, just stick with brown boots. Not that baffling move here is going on this Wraith King, and this really shouldn't work, but for some reason the Wraith King doesn't get any help here, and he just gets left alone. Lich's not there to help him out, so our boy Garvin can go on this Lich and get another kill here. Actually, the Witch Doctor claims the kill, so Garvin is not trying to run away. And when you're running away like that, you generally want to have your birds attack and then run away with your hero. And then once the hero is a little bit away, then you follow with your birds. Just taking everything and just right-clicking away is not the best way of going about it. Because then your birds can sort of help you out. They can put some damage on chasing heroes, put up some deterrence basically, and then also be in place to stun if necessary. So always just keep in mind, when you're running away, run with the hero first and with your birds later on. So we're going to see another engagement here. They're going to go on the sniper, and you can see Garvin using Solar Systems right away, which is good, but not using his Grave Chill. But they get those kills anyway. So once again, doing well, even with like not even using Grave Chill, which is such an important ability. And part of the reason why he's not using that ability as well as he should is because he lacks the cast range. Level 10 talent, cast range challenge is so much better than the range challenge. Also here, you birds, he loses one bird here. When they use the glyph on the tower, you always need to retreat with your birds, and then if they get too low, you drop them when they're no longer directly on the tower. Because if you drop them right underneath the tower, when they come up, they're very vulnerable. So you want to move them away and then drop them. And just be hyper vigilant when they use their glyph, because your birds die so quickly. And he has taken the wrong creep. The Celetometer is nice, it's an okay creep to take, but this is the Alpha Wolf here. This is one of the best creeps here, and it's especially good if you're playing with a Morphling here in the team. Morphling has so much base damage that the Alpha Wolf just does so much. Like this Morphling has 226 base damage. He's going to get so much damage from Alpha Wolf. So one thing that Garvin is doing that you're not going to see in a pro game, but which I really like, is that he's buying Sentry Wards. Normally it's the job of your position 5, but if your position 5 is not buying enough Sentry Wards, which is very frequently going to happen in this bracket, just buy some yourself. They're not expensive, and if you get like a D ward like half the time, you're making back your investment and just helping your team quite a bit. But the way you want to place these is not on top of the cliffs. Rather, you want to place them away from the cliffs, something like here, for example, or here, and then get high ground vision with your birds. Like this sentry could be, for example, here, and then you can still get high ground vision with your birds, and then you could still de-ward a ward that's here, for example. So just maximize that coverage, especially since as you're playing against better players, they're going to ward on these cliffs less frequently. So oftentimes the good ward spots are something like this, or something like this one. That's sort of a bit away from the cliff and not as likely to be de-warded. But if you place your ward away from the cliff, you can get those cliff wards that's still going to be there often with your birds, and still get outlying wards that are sort of placed a little bit more sneakily. So after the questionable phase boots, our boy Garvin is going for a Pipe of Insight, which is very standard, very strong item in Visage. Just protects yourself, protects your birds, protects your team, and there's a reasonable amount of magic damage in the enemy team. They have a Wraith King with a Radiance, they have Sniper with his Shrapnel and his Maelstrom, they have all the damage from Lich and from Rubik. But quite a bit of magic damage, and a Pipe is very necessary. And since Venomance is not buying these kind of team items, he's buying these weird items like Yasha and Kaya, it's up to Visage to pick up the slack here and go for something like a Pipe. One item that's really missing in this item build is Medallion. So medallion is only slightly more expensive than upgrade to phase boots, so that would be a much better way of getting some armor here. And of course medallion just really strong with Visage, gives you so much value, so much DPS for your birds, and also particularly is really strong when you're doing Roshan. One problem that I'm consistently seeing here with Garvin's item build is the lack of slot utilization. You have 6 slots for a reason, and smaller items as a general rule are more efficient than larger items. So really want to use those slots. These slots are a resource that you should exploit to the max, and you're just not seeing that right now. He only has 4 items and it's 25 minutes into the game. He should have the medallion I talked about. If you don't want to go for the full medallion, at least get a Blightstone. It's also a really efficient item. I think of it this way. You have a level 15 talent that's 2.5 armor corruption. So that's just slightly more than what Blightstone gives you. So for this 300 gold item, you get something that's almost as good as level 15 talents. But instead, this gold just lies shallow in the bank. This item slot remains unused. And by the way, in this fight, speaking of unused, Pipe of Insight has not been used yet. This fight would have gone so much better with a Pipe. It's still going reasonably well here, and they're still winning this fight, but they would have been winning so much harder with that Pipe. So once again, that's one of these times where there's a lot of mistakes being made, but the mistakes are not being punished. And that's just a function of playing in a low MMR game. You can get away with making these mistakes because your opponent's also making lots of mistakes, but this is the sort of thing that as soon as you move a little bit up in MMR, it's going to be punished really hard. So just sort of basic things like remember to activate your pipe during a team fight. It's just mistakes that you can no longer get away with when you're playing against better opponents. So right now the Dive team are up 14k, which is primarily because of Morphling and Venomancer. They're having really good games. Venomancer won his lane and has been able to farm a lot with his Plague Wards, and then Morphling also won the lane and has been able to do a lot of free farming here. Nice stomp coming under this lich, trying to save his Morphling, but there's no reason of going in there. Like, he saved the Morphling and then he can just run back, but as it is now, Garvin is gonna die, and he does end up saving Morphling, so better he died than Morphling, because Morphling is the main carry. He's having a really good game, but it really wasn't necessary to die here. He could have just stayed up here and just had his bird attack there, have his centaur stomp, and not go in there. And that's also a theme they're going to see again and again. He's just likes to run in with his main hero, which on Visage you almost never want to do. You want to stay away from the enemy. You want to stay as far away from the brunt of the fighting as possible, because that is what allows you to keep up those Gravekeeper's Cloak charges, which will protect your birds and keep yourself alive. And you have a lot of range on your abilities, and you have a lot of range on that Gravekeeper's Cloak aura, so there's no reason to get up close and personal. You want to stick back and just let your birds and your soul assumptions do the work. So now Garvin has decided to go for a BKB, which I find just as puzzling as the phase boots. Why do you need BKB? Maybe if you're gonna play this playstyle where you just run in with your main hero and try to get up close and personal with the enemies, then I guess you might need a BKB, but you're not supposed to play like that. You're supposed to stay back, and you have your pipe to protect yourself against the magic damage flying around, and as long as you stay back from the fight, you're never going to need that BKB. And it's not like getting that BKB allows you to deal more damage or something, which is why on most cores you want to get a BKB eventually. It just allows you to actually get off your spells and so on. But with Visage, most of the damage is going to be from your birds, who can attack whether or not you have BKB, as well as your soul assumption. And for that you only need to be able to be unstunned like once every 4 seconds. So BKB is not really going to increase the damage output. I guess it's going to make you a little bit safer, but that can just as well be achieved by positioning. So it's just an item I really don't like on Visage. So what should you buy instead? Well, Solar Crest is an excellent item here, especially with a core like Morphling. If you have this super farm position 1, this giving them a Solar Crest is so efficient. It's like adding another 4k to the net worth. And it's just such a strong and flexible item and fits so well into Visage. Other great items to go for would be Drum, just an efficient, cheap aura item. Another item in that category would be Vlad's. That extra life will be really nice for Morphling, as well as for the rest of your team to some extent. So you see Morphling dying a bit stupidly, being a bit over aggressive, and now he's doing it well. He's moving back with his hero as far as he can and using his birds to attack at the same time. So this is a really well played fight here, using all his abilities and staying alive here. Now I could use some more Grave Chills and Soul Assumptions. So nice Grave Chill here, and he is going to survive and TP out of there. That's very nicely done. So this was a really solid fight here. Morphling dying a bit stupidly, but then they made the best of it. Wraith King threw over his life, and he's going to be dead for another half a minute. So that gives them time to do some pushing. And in these kind of pushes, it's important to stay in the back line. So this is a good job here, but he should be even a bit farther back and pay more attention to his birds. You don't want to stand here in all that AoE damage is coming out. He's a bit too close here and should be farther forward with his birds and farther back with his hero. So they're trying to go for this high ground, and for some reason Morphling is in here. He gets a kill, and as Visage you can't follow here. You don't want to go onto the high ground. Just as a general rule, as Visage, as long as most of your opponents are alive, you never enter the high ground. You can enter the high ground with your birds, but your main hero should stay back here. And if your team does this sort of deep diving, you can just hit the objectives in the meantime. That just means they're buying your time so that you can do the building damage. But like, this is not going to work. This is never going to work. Just take the objectives. That's what Visage is good as. Don't do these stupid dives. Just don't go onto the high ground. Just stay out here, let your birds do the work, and even if the team does some sort of diving here, if they initiate like somewhere in like this area, then of course you can help them. You can help them get the kill, which is your birds hitting and your hero just staying somewhere like here. But you never want to dive in here. That's just completely game ruining. Roshan is back online, and Venomous is already prepping him by planting his wards. So as Visage, of course, you want to join here. He finds a centaur, which is quite strong, and now they're going to go for this Roshan, and it gets popped here by the Thunderstrike here. So now you can use your Grave Chill, which really increases the DPS of your birds. And you don't want to drop your birds here. Your birds are the DPS. Birds should keep hitting here unless they're very low. But you do want to rescue that centaur, just having walk up here or something like that, and then you can still bring him back in for a fight if the enemy decides to engage you, or you can have him stand somewhere here. Like if you didn't have those wards, maybe you can just put him here for some scouting, but here's not necessary, of course. So now they eventually clear this Roshan, which they would have done sooner if you hadn't dropped. Like, why do you drop those birds? It doesn't do anything. Like, it stops Roshan for like a half a second or something like that. That is not, actually it's a bit longer than that. How long is it? Level 3? It's 1.5 seconds, so it's a decent stun, but like, you don't need to stun Roshan here. Just hit him and get it over with quickly and kill him faster, instead of just prolonging it by doing these stuns that just cost you 6 seconds of DPS from your familiars. So with the Aegis once again online, unfortunately not on Morphling but on Visage, they're going in here, and once again Visage is too far forward. Don't go into the high ground, just stay back here. As it is, he's just going to get bursted down, his birds are going to die, and now you need to put that cheese into your inventory. You can do that while you're dead, and he's not doing it, and because of that he is unfortunately going to die, a very unnecessary death, and not even resummoning his birds. The Dire team have been doing some feeding, and Morphling is not alive currently. So you have to defend here 4 versus 5. And in these kind of fights, you just want to hit with your birds. The birds are just flying around here aimlessly. Your birds should be hitting those creeps. I'm not sure what he's doing here. Just hit with your birds and stay back with your hero. And he's doing it the opposite. He's on the front here with his hero, and his birds are not doing anything. So right now here you can just hit those with your birds, but don't have your hero out there. And this is also like what the Disruptor is doing here. They don't know that the enemy aren't just waiting here. So Morphling's still dead. It's still a dangerous situation, but in this case it doesn't get punished. So they see this tier 1 tower being pushed, so there's nothing you can do about this. And also this tower is the least important tower in the entire game. It doesn't control any territory. Basically as long as this tier 2 tower is up, you have almost as much map control as if you have the tier 1 tower. So losing the tier 1 tower, completely irrelevant. And now we're going to see our boy Garvin go for an AC, which is a very sensible late game item, unlike BKB. But of course, it's just still some of these nice aura items that are missing, things like a Vlad's and a drum. So if you're in a game like this and Visage isn't buying these items and Venomous isn't buying these items, you can definitely buy these items on a hero like Witch Doctor or Disruptor. You know, instead of having the completed Guardian Grease, maybe just have the mech and a Vlad's would also be a really good item here. Or just maybe buy it on the Witch Doctor. Just Flats, such an efficient late game item that you usually just always want to have it on your team on someone. So once again, they're sieging the high ground, and what you can do is just stand or you heal somewhere like here and then have the birds attack. Birds are quite durable as long as you have those 4 stacks up of Gravekeeper's Cloak. And with those Plague Wards here from the Rubik, it's not going to be very easy to siege this. So yeah, even though there's a hero dead, it's not really, you can't really get much done here. So instead they're just going to try to go in the 2 lanes at once, and Morphling jumps in here very aggressively and gets the kill, but it's also in danger. So of course Visage has to join in there, but now he's being hit by all these Plague Walls. His Gravekeeper's Cloak stacks are kind of getting low, so these birds are no longer the tankiest, and now he should be moving back with the hero. The hero is moving back and the birds hitting the buildings. So always have your birds between yourself and the enemy, almost always at least. The birds are your DPS, they're also your protection, and as long as the hero is protected, the birds are also quite protected. So Morphling going in once again here, and I'm not sure what exactly the plan is here. The Morphling dies, and now Visage going in. Again, he's too far forward here, he's moving into this clockwork. Why is he moving into this clockwork? No reason. You can just stay here, and if your birds be here, you're going to be much safer. So they all feed. The Disruptor is the only one left alive, and now it's Crisis Mode. Even though they're 18k behind, they're just not playing these team fights properly. And also a big part of this is just Morphling being a bit over aggressive here. But also our boy Garvin shouldn't be alt-setting as much. Instead, he should be focused on using his familiars to some profit, instead of just having them chill in the lane here, chill in the base. So he has to buy back here to try to defend this middle lane. And once again, just hit with your birds. Keep your hero back. Instead, the birds are just flying around here, and they're conceding this middle lane, but they try to go for this exekill and sniper, which of course something that Disruptor is really good at. But with the BKB, Sniper is able to escape here, and they're trying to find someone else. Wraithing, of course, a much harder target to kill. But they're still going to try, so nothing much we can do here, just try to get that Grave Shield. And for some reason, Wraith can turn around here. I'm not sure what's happening in this game. I guess he's trying to help his Rubik. But of course, Rubik here, sacrificing himself for his carry. but he is actually buyback dead, so this is a great opportunity for our boys here to do some plays. So they're going to push in 2 lanes. This lane on the top is pushing in, and now they're going to push the mid lane, so that's quite sensible. Normally you would rather push them on the side lanes. These are easier to go high ground because just the terrain works out better. In the middle lane can be surrounded from both sides, so the enemy can very easily flank you from all these sides, whereas in the side lane it's a bit more protected. So it makes sense here to go for the bottom lane. But in this case, I mean, the mid lane tower is already down, so it's also a tricky target. But here they're just going to try to push in 2 lanes at once. Fortification is being used, so we have to retreat, of course. But in the mid lane they didn't get the memo. So this time running him the birds first, that's very nice, but he's again a bit too far forward with his hero. And we're going to try to protect this morphling. And what are these birds doing? The birds are going to have to be here, and the hero can be here. But he gets the kill here, and Lich also going to be killed here. Actually, no, he survives with his Glimmer Cape. So again, just being too far forward with your main hero, and this also leads to your birds being squishy and almost dying here. He went here for the level 25 talent with +1 familiar, which is usually the wrong choice, and especially in a game like this, he's losing his Gravekeeper's Cloak stacks all the time, he's losing his birds. Definitely you'd rather have the +5 cloak stacks here in this game. The +1 familiar is basically only in a game where you're already owning and where your birds are already not dying, but this is not the case here, so definitely the Gravekeeper's Cloak stacks, yeah, the safer choice. But his team is still doing quite well, and he's using his birds. Of course, you have to be very careful with your birds when your hero is not nearby. It's a bit too slow on dropping one of those birds, so it's always it's half a second cast time. Actually, it's like, I think, slightly longer than half a second on a stone form, so you need to cast it a little bit faster than you actually think. It takes surprisingly long. So now they've all fed in here, they've lost all their heroes, and right now your bird should not be returning home. Your bird should be hitting the bottom lane, or at least sort of hiding around this area to hit the bottom lane to force them to respawn here. So when you respawn, you have resummon anyway. You want to resummon because you have you want to get that 3rd familiar anyway, so you don't mind losing these too much. So definitely have these somewhere here to keep the enemy in their base and prevent them from doing things like Roshan during that lull. And I'm actually not sure what the rating team is doing here. Let's switch on All Vision what they're doing. Oh yeah, they're doing Roshan. So definitely with those birds, if those birds had been pushing this lane in faster, they couldn't do this Roshan right now. Or at least they would have taken some damage on that tower in exchange for that Roshan. So he loses 1 bird, but again, this doesn't really matter. You can just resummon. Yeah, the enemy team is able to almost do the Roshan, and with Morphling again diving in here and dying, yeah, that didn't go too well. Okay, so as Visage, what do you do here? You have your carry once again dead, and the enemy have the Aegis, they have the cheese. What else do they have? They have a Refresher Shot here on Lich. So things are not looking good, even though you have this 9k lead. So you have 18k gold, and you don't have buyback anyway. So what do you do with this gold? Well, I think the answer here is just get Medallion. You should have gotten an item a long time ago. Alternatively, getting Vlads or Drums, almost have enough gold for that. So there's also valuable items to go for here. But just anything to spend that gold because you don't have buyback anyway. And you need to be as strong as possible if they want to make a move while this Morphling is dead. And it looks like they're just going to take this tier 2 tower at the top. But with this catapult wave coming, of course, they might be looking for more. Should have enough time here. For some reason, popping the Pipe of Insight here, I think it's just a misclick. So definitely not good, but the enemy are retreating anyway, so again, a mistake that's not punished here. So the Dire team have decided that they want to do some split pushing here. They want to push in both the side lanes, so they have Morphling at the top lane and the rest of the team in the bottom lane. So Morphling does some tower damage, gets out again. Very nicely played from him. And the initiation on him is not successful. So right now he's just retreating a little bit, and now at the bottom they can move in, and they can only defend on one of these two fronts. It's going to be difficult to split their attention, so they kill the Morphling at top. So okay, I was just praising Morphling, but apparently just got lucky or something. Because you're not supposed to just dive in there. I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, now Morphling is dead once again, so they have to retreat. Now, if you want to do this sort of split pushing, you generally want to wait for that 4-man team to start engaging here, and then you can go in there when the enemy team is distracted. But just diving in there alone is not an option. So your carry just dies stupidly. What do you do now? Well, if any of the lanes are near your base, you're going to push that out. If you have a hero that's suitable for that, you can cut the waves, which you can do with your familiars on their own. That's a bit risky, but if you have a resummon, that's definitely something you can do. But other than that, you can just like farm some safe camps, stay off the map, and try not to get killed stupidly. So now the enemy are pushing the tier 2 tower here, which of course you don't defend. You're going to wait for your Morphling, which is going to be up in 15 seconds. And that's going to be soon enough for that high ground defense. So again, you just want to stay here, you want to stay back with your hero, and you want to hit those creeps, hit those heroes with your familiars. And instead it's just going to run around here like a headless chicken, which is not the best. And now he's hitting this clockwork with his blade mail and without enough layers on his cloak, so uses all his birds, and now he's being hit. And I guess you can BKB here, but what does it really do realistically? I guess it protects you a little bit, but it just means that the Lich is going to bounce on other heroes, and he even still has protection from that pipe here. So once again, that BKB not really paying off. It would have been so much better with some other item for a similar price, like a Solar Crest onto his Morphling. But either way, they're going to win this fight. Wraith King is trying to get some killing before he dies again, but it's not going to happen. So nicely done here from the Garvin team. And what do they do now? They have 2 heroes dead, so they can just push 2 lanes, and Morphling again is going to try this plan with pushing top. I guess they want to go high ground with the wave pushing in the mid lane here. So you can hit these creeps, that's fine. They force the buybacks, and now it's time to back off. But Morphling, I'm not sure. He has another waveform available. Why doesn't he just waveform? A bit baffling here. And with Morphling now dead, they should be retreating. And so far it's looking good. Midrock is being engaged here, and Morphling has bought back and is now taking those Raxes. So now he's doing the split pushing properly. So now they got, and now he's just, I don't know what he's doing here. He's sticking around, and he is dying. Let's watch that again. So Morphling is just bought back. He's in here. He's used his Blink Dagger, hits those buildings while his team is fighting. That's very good. Smart heads-up play from Morphling. Kills those Raxes, and now he needs to get out. But instead, he waveforms in there, hits this random building for no particular reason, and now he's just wandering aimlessly. He still has another waveform. He misused his Hurricane Pike, and now he's just dead. And there's no buyback here. So, horrible misplay from Morphling. But what do you do as Visage? Take this Alpha Wolf for one. And Visage right now, I think he's just like typing furiously or screaming at his microphone or something. Passive wave fork or something like that. And I can sort of understand that you're angry. This is a horrible misplay that Morphling just made. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't excuse the fact that Visage is basically just stop playing for 30 seconds. Your carry is dead for 120 seconds without buyback. you cannot just go back to your base and play this passively. You need to be threatening this lane down here. You have buyback. If you die, that's fine. You have resummon. You can, against most things, you can TP out with BKB. You should not be in your base here, chilling. You should be down here threatening megas. And if the enemies stick around, try to kill you, that means they lose crucial time, which means extra time for Morphling to respawn. You need to be buying time right now, and Visage, he's just wasted half a minute just walking back to the base where he doesn't want to be. He wants to be down here and not even doing obvious things like taking over this Alpha Wolf. And yes, sure, you can play Morphling. He did a horrible misplay, but you just have to move on. There's absolutely no profit in screaming at teammates and blaming your teammates. It's a move that in the long run is going to cost you hundreds of MMR. If you just accept that your teammates are going to make mistakes, you're going to play so much better. Just don't focus on what the mistakes your teammates do, because they're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to find things your teammates did wrong that you can blame your loss on. That's not the way to move forward. The way to move forward is to play your own game. And that, in this case, means threatening these megas. Because if they don't address it, you can get megas very quickly and they can TP back, resummon your birds, and still fight this. Like, if you're fighting your tier 4s and Morphling is almost back up, then you can maybe hold them off. And then when you have megas, that means that if you hold off this push, then you win the game. But as it is, they're just going to try to fight this 3 versus 5, or I guess 4 versus 5, because Visage has buyback. But already they're not supposed to engage here. They're supposed to engage here in the tier 4s. But they're taking this engagement, and let's see how it goes. So Visage this time staying back reasonably far, but need to actually move further back when the Wraith King moves forward. So now he's doing it well. So pretty good fight so far from Garvin, but he needs to move back a little bit more, and especially against this ultimate here coming out from Rubik. So he lost his birds. Actually, no, the birds still alive, at least 2 of them. So he's pretty low, and so far it's gone about as well as it could, given the numbers situation here. But now the Lich is bought back, and you have no Witch Doctor. He bought back and is dead again. So now you're fighting in very bad shape. So in this fight, you just want to try to buy as much time as possible, and definitely don't want to be in the front lines with your hero. Your hero should be somewhere like here. So he bought back now, and again, you want to just try to hit those heroes, especially the ranged heroes, the squishy heroes like Rubik. But Wraith King, of course, also a hero that does a lot of damage, so you're going to take him out eventually. But it's just he has so many lives, and it's difficult. So the throne just getting incredibly low, and it's going to go down. So this was a game where the Dire were incredibly far ahead. They were like 15k, 18k ahead in some points, but then just horrible high ground pushes. Morphling just inexplicably diving in and dying for no reason. But also the rest of the team not playing well around that. If the enemy are going for a GG push and you have your most farmed carry buyback dead, you can't just stick in your base. You need to be split pushing. And especially if you have buyback available, if you have resummon available, it's a move you can definitely do. If they go down there with like 3-4 heroes and kill you, that's fine. That just means they're not going to have enough time to push before Morphling respawns. That's a good outcome. Or if they don't address you, you can possibly get megas, and then if you just manage to stall out the push somehow, you can win the game. But just sitting in your base idly is not a recipe for success. And even so, they almost helped because they were so far ahead. but it was not quite enough and they lost that game. So 3 key takeaway lessons from this game. Number 1, use your item slots. Buy these small, efficient items, things like a wand, buy a medallion if you're in Visage. A lot of heroes also something like a windlace, something like raindrops. Just use those item slots and don't just let them lay fallow. Number 2, and this is Visage specific, is you want to be far forward with your birds and far back with your hero. Your bird should be attacking, your hero should be safe. And yes, if you can right click, that's nice and all, but it's not required for Visage to do his job. The most important thing is for your hero to be safe and like within aura range of the fight where your birds are. So this will keep your bird safe, this will keep your hero safe, and you're still going to be able to do most of your things because Visage has quite a good range on his spells, especially if you take the range talent as you are supposed to. And then number 3, and this is a very general thing that applies to all heroes, to all roles, to all MMR brackets, your teammates are going to make mistakes. Dota is a hard game. This is just something you have to accept and move on. Teammates make mistakes, you make mistakes yourself. Don't dwell on your mistakes, don't dwell on other people's mistakes. Just try to do what's best in that situation. So this has been the second of the 3 replay analyses that I promised in my 1,000 subscriber video. The third one is going to be on a Rubik game, which is going to come up soon. But in the meantime, if you want to learn more about how to play Visage, I recommend you watch my big Visage guide, which covers everything you need to know about Visage in one very short 1-hour video. So just click on that video on the screen and Obelisk willing, I'll see you there.